Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome again back to the Earth, our Mudfossil Gaia. I have another story to share with you guys today. There is a Mudfossil Dragon nearby. I will show you the Mudfossil Dragon, though I don't think he fits this story because this dragon was supposed to have lived in this cave here, and he would have been pretty small. I'll show you guys the cave, and if there was a dragon that really lived in there, then he wouldn't have been very big. But there are remains of this dragon. There are actually bones of the dragon hanging on the church right above the cave. And I'll show you guys the dragon bones too. So let me share with you guys this story, and I'll take you guys and show you the evidence I found. The most popular fairy tale version of the Wawel Dragon tale takes place in Krakus during the reign of King Krakus, the city's legendary founder. Each day, the evil dragon would beat a path of destruction across the countryside, killing the civilians, pillaging their homes, and devouring their livestock. In many versions of the story, the dragon especially enjoyed eating young maidens. Great warriors from near and far fought for the prize and failed. A cobbler's apprentice named Scuba accepted the challenge. He stuffed a lamb with sulfur and set it outside the dragon's cave. The dragon ate it and became so thirsty it turned to the Vestulan River and drank it until it burst. The cobbler married the king's daughter as promised and founded the city of Krakus. So this is the Wawel Castle, and this thing is incredible. It's on a very old star fort, and I will read a little bit of the research I did on how old this structure and everything under it actually is. They think it dates back to like the 4th century. And it's just had layers and layers of civilization built on top of it. And there have been a lot of wars here. And there was this one siege of Krakus where it shows you some of the destruction of what happened to what was a beautiful star city. This thing had a wall that went all the way around it. Right here where you see the trees growing right here, there was a wall that went around the whole extent of this thing. And the only thing left of the wall now is this itty bitty piece right here. And this was like the entrance to this star city. You would have to go through here, and of course there was water all under here, and so the only way there was through here and across the bridge and through the wall. And this wall went all the way around the whole city, and that's all that's left of it. And over here at this side where the castle is, this cathedral here is where the dragon bones are actually hanging. They're actually hanging on the wall of this church. Right by the front door when you walk in. And the cave that they say the dragon actually used to live in is right here. So that would have been a really small dragon. And I find it really interesting that it has 7 heads, just like the biblical dragon, right? It's a funny way to put 7 heads on a dragon, too. That's very strange. Right behind him there is the cave. And you can go in there, and it's not very big. So that would have been a pretty small dragon. But when I first heard the story, my first thought was there is another giant dragon here. Giant dragon here. So Krakus, it's right here, okay? And this other dragon is right here. So Slovakia here would be the head of this dragon. Its snout comes down here. He's upside down here. If I turn him this way, you can almost see his little whiskers. Like, here's his snout, and there's whiskers like a Chinese type lung dragon. And you can see horns here. He looks a lot like Kuan Yin's horned dragon. And he's got the really long body that wraps all the way around here. And you can see one claw here. And I'm sure there's more. It looks like one of your traditional Chinese long dragons. So when I heard that story, that was my first thought. But then I heard about the bones. And they have bones of a dragon on that church there. So probably not the bigger dragon, but who knows? Who knows? Because these stories, like I say, they've been, passed down and retold and retold. There are several versions of just this one story alone. There's another story that says it was Krakus' sons who killed the dragon, and then one of the sons killed the other son because he wanted to be king, and then it was later on found out. And yeah, so there are so many different versions of these stories that trying to figure out where they really originate, I don't know. Those bones were brought to the cathedral back in medieval times, and so who knows? It could have been from any dragon. Apparently there were a lot of dragons. So yeah, I just thought that was really cool that they actually have bones on the church that they say belonged to this guy. Pretty cool. Now this part I found extremely interesting. The hill, which takes the form of a horse, originated in the Miocene epoch 23 to 25 million years ago and consists of Jurassic limestone dating back to the Oxfordian age, 155 to 161 million years ago. This limestone is strongly karsted and abounds in caves. For example, the Dragon's Den, Smazkayama. This possibly explains why the hill was originally called Wawel, meaning ravine in Polish. This ravine once divided the hill. An alternative theory is that the word means protrusion from the marshes which surrounded the hill. However, the most recent theory is that Wawel is a regular continuation of the name Babel in the Greek language. The consonant B followed by the V or W. Very interesting. There are mounds here in this place that, let me show you. The first thing I thought of was, wow, that looks just like the Tower of Babel. And it's another star fort, of course. But the way that this wraps around is the same way the staircase wraps around on the Tower of Babel. So I thought, that is interesting. You know, is it supposed to be symbolic of that? Then would be my guess. And here's where it got really interesting. The Wawel Hill has archaeological remains indicating settlement from the 4th century. Archaeological studies suggest that the earliest settlement dates back to the Middle Paleolithic era, 100,000 years BC, and owed its rapid development to its location being the crossing of a number of key trading routes. Wawel is believed to be one of the strongholds of the Vestulan Tribe, which formed a nation at the turn of the 8th and 9th century AD. Its legendary rulers, Krakus and Princess Wanda, who are said to have lived in the 7th and 8th centuries, are mentioned by the 13th century chronicler Wincenti Cadlubec. In the 10th century, the Vestulans' lands and Krakow became part of the emerging state of Poland. So this legend is one of the earliest legends of the area. The Vestulan Tribe, they are the ones that very first inhabited this hill. And as the story goes, they were actually living on the hill. And when the dragon was living in the cave, you know, they hadn't built their big fortress on it yet, but it was very troublesome to them having this dragon under there. And that was Krakus and his son, or Krakus and his sons, or the shoemaker, or some of the legends say it was Krakus himself who defeated the dragon. Pretty cool that this legend goes all the way back to as far back as they can take it. This is one of the mounds. There are actually 3 here in Krakow, or around Krakow. 2 of them are supposed to be prehistoric mounds, and then one of them is a newer one that they did as a replica of these older ones. And these mounds are to commemorate Krakus and Wanda, who were the founders of the city. So this is Krakus Mound, and this is the mound that is to be the resting place of Krakow's mythical founder, the legendary King Krakus. And then Wanda Mound is right here. So these are the 2 prehistoric mounds that still stand. This mound is assumed to be the resting place of the legendary Princess Wanda. According to one version of the story, she committed suicide by drowning in the Vistula River to avoid unwanted marriage with a German. Interesting. And this mound, the really cool one that looks like the Tower of Babel, is the one that is a newer one. They say right here is an artificial mound modeled after Krakus prehistoric mounds of Krak and Wanda. So I thought that was really interesting. Quite a beautiful city though. There are some really old, beautiful churches here that are really worth having a look at. I'll show you guys a few on a little picture slide here. And I do recommend going over and watching Lorra's video. She did a great presentation on what's under this kingdom here. There is an entire kingdom under this kingdom. It's just incredible how many civilizations have been built on top of civilizations on top of civilizations. Incredible. While we're here on the subject of mounds and mound builders, I'd like to point out the Mormon Temples. If you know anything about the recent discoveries of archaeological evidence to prove the Book of Mormon to actually be historically true, they are... Okay, so in the Book of Mormon tells the stories of the Native Americans who lived here back in the time when Jesus visited, okay? And these civilizations that they speak of in the Book of Mormon were extremely advanced builders. Every city they had was fortified with mounds, canals. They were the mound builders. And most of the mounds have been destroyed up until this point. Apparently, back in the time when they were settling over in the Midwest and wanting to turn it all into farmland, the mounds were quite a nuisance to the people. And so rather than excavating them, they would just quietly tear them down so that they could continue farming. So a lot has been lost about these people. But what I want to point out, this temple here, the Mantai, Utah temple, it's one of the very first temples that they built. And they built this one specifically with a star fort bastion. This is a star fort bastion here on this temple. And you can see the point here. Let's see if I can give you a better view of it. But what I found really interesting, why would they put a bastion, a star fort bastion, on a Mormon temple, right? There's got to be a reason for that. Well, apparently there is. So they built this temple with a bastion to commemorate the original temple builders. Now, when they say the original temple builders, I thought they were the ones building this temple originally, right? Well, no. It turns out this temple site is actually a temple site that was dedicated by the angel Moroni back in the time when Moroni was still here as a human, before he died and went to the Pleiades and came back and saw Joseph Smith as an angel from the Pleiades, okay, which is another really interesting fact. But yes, Angel Moroni, the one who visited Joseph Smith, says he used to be a human and he was here on Earth, and now he is from the Pleiades. Well, he had dedicated a site here way back then when he was still Mormon. And he told this to the current day prophet back then, who was Brigham Young, and he's the one who decided to put this temple here for that reason. And he supposedly had a conversation with Angel Moroni here on this site, and he told him this was where it needed to be built. And so the fact that they built this with a Star Fort bastion to honor the original builders, and then when you look at the type of building that we have here, okay, the type of construction, this looks like every other Tatarian cathedral, castle, turned into post office, whatever now, right? All across the world. It's the same beautiful brickwork. So, maybe these so-called prehistoric people weren't so prehistoric after all. This one was built with fortitude, they said. Built with fortitude. So basically, what I am getting at is that this magical golden Tartarian age of a global utopian advanced civilization that has for some reason been removed from our real stories and replaced with his story keeps coming back up in my research. The time when Moroni was here dedicating this land for a temple would have been the same time frame as this King Krakus and Wanda, also mound builders, both around the 4th century, and both having stories of dragons and satyrs and all these so-called mythical creatures. Also, both Star Fort builders, so I wonder, just a coincidence? Or more evidence of our mysterious advanced lost civilization? You tell me. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make sure that bell is ringing so you'll be notified when my next video comes out. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and do share it with your friends. Till next time.